Hey guys, SunDownRider here. This is going to be my chapter review to Nanatsu no Taizai 262, or the 7 Deadly Sins 262, the one twisted by darkness. Now once again, a good chapter, a good setup for what's about to go down next chapter, but this chapter in and of itself was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it, and the implications of what this chapter had were really awesome to see, and I really enjoyed this chapter. So let me know what you guys thought of the chapter at the end, or even halfway through the review, whatever. But we start where we left off last chapter, with Eddie having just crash landed, and everyone really there that's with Stigma, the goddesses, Elizabeth, and everyone else, Hauser. They all recognize who Eddie is, and they're shook, like, what the hell, what's Eddie doing here, what's the commandment doing here right now? So obviously the Pleiades of the Azure Sky, they got beef with Eddie because she killed Denzel, who was the kind of the head of the Pleiades of the Azure Sky, and everyone like Death Note, Death Pierce and his mans, I don't even remember the rest of them. They go from they get real angry, and Death Pierce himself actually goes from 0 to severely constipated real quick, and I'm just like, yo, seriously, look at that panel, check out that panel, guys, and tell me that he is not severely constipated. This man needs some prunes. He is so backed up. I mean, come on, man. So as Eddie kind of processes Elizabeth's presence, Death Pierce uses this opportunity to exact his revenge, but is quickly put down when his sword breaks against Eddie's neck. As soon as it makes contact with her skin, his sword just breaks, and this was surprisingly funny for me, but especially with how much Death Pierce just looks like he hates himself after he finishes his attack. When his sword breaks, he's just there like, oh God, why? And I was off my ass off of that. I was like, yo, you are a waste. You're a straight waste. So Eddie walks onwards, explaining very briefly in a very fractured manner, really, to Elizabeth what's just gone down. She says that she felt Elizabeth's magic and decided to crash land here. And she also mentions Estarossa. She doesn't even go on to say what Estarossa did. She just mentions Estarossa and mentions Mons Piet. And then like Bloody Mary and like a bat out of hell, Estarossa just flies in, and he's just like, hey, and I was like, yo, this he's actually crazy now. I'm not sure if he's absorbed Mons Piet's commandment, and I think he had one more commandment. I don't think he's absorbed them yet, but he's just crazy anyway. I mean, we're seeing how crazy this silent type, who we thought was a silent type originally, he's actually just crazy. He's so crazy. So he just flies in like he owns the joint, and I was like, damn, Estarossa is crazy. So this is really the best case scenario as well as the worst case scenario for Estarossa, and that's a really weird combination of things, seeing as he's found Elizabeth, the person he's kind of going through all these measures and these lengths for. Seemingly, we don't actually know why he's doing this, but Elizabeth seems to be his kind of driving factor at this moment in time. So that's kind of like the best case scenario for him. But in terms of worst case scenario, he arrives surrounded by Sariel, Tarmiel, Elizabeth, 3 powerful mofos, 3 goddesses. 2 of them being archangels, 2 of which despise him, and 1 of which won't actually let him hurt Eddie. But also King is there, and so is Diane, and they're both at the pinnacle of their form right now. So he's not in the best of situations, and if they don't wreck him, it's gonna be props to Estarossa, which is one of those things. It's like, why is Estarossa so calm? And I'll come on to that later, but Estarossa, having just landed and seeing Elizabeth and everything, we know he's a crazy, twisted individual, but he also notices the humans and lesser beings around him, and he refers to them as garbage, because he's twisted. And he then unleashes his Black Hound technique, which is awesome. It's a Hellblaze in the form of a giant dog with seemingly a will of its own, a life of its own, and it looked awesome. It was really well drawn, and just the technique itself is really interesting. And this black dog, this hound, separated Elizabeth and Eddie from everyone else in kind of like this Hellblaze tornado, and they're at the eye of the tornado, eye of the storm almost. Allowing Estarossa to just walk in and kind of use his silver tongue to try to woo Elizabeth. And it's really here that we kind of get this rapey vibe. I mean, Estarossa is the more you resist, the more you tempt me, and I'm just like, bruh, you need to calm down, get your ass back to school. I mean, this dude, he's seriously rapey at this point. He's got his shirt off and everything, and you're just like this dude doesn't know anything about what's going down today. So it's here that we get, also with his shirt off, it's here that we get a good look at Estarossa's body, and I can't help but be saddened by the fact that He seems to have sustained no damage at all from Monspiet's final Hellblaze attack. I mean, I understand the regenerative capacity of the demons, but what was the point in hyping up Monspiet's Hellblaze technique only for him to actually use it and for it to have been useless? I mean, it doesn't seem to have damaged Estarossa in the slightest, and it didn't even slow Estarossa down. He landed literally like a minute after Daddy Yeti landed, so I'm just like, I feel bad for Monspiet now, because he, even though he died and used that technique as his final thing, like, this is my last gift to humanity or the demons or whatever, or this is my last act of protection for Daddy Yeti, it did nothing, and you're just like, wow, that's so sad, and I feel bad for Monspiet. Anyway, as Estarossa talks to Elizabeth, Elizabeth kind of instantly goes into this rage mode. I don't know what it was. She just instantly presumes that Estarossa is collecting commandments for Meliodas, so she pops him with an arc, you know, the goddess technique arc, and he's just there like, wait, I didn't even finish my sentence, and he gets blown away, and I was like, yo, she's crazy. And even though she does push him quite far in terms of distance and not in terms of his will, Estarossa easily breaks out of it, garnering the praise of Sariel and Tamiel. They're both like, oh, for you to have broken out of Elizabeth's arc technique, that's quite impressive, you know, even though you are one of the top ranked demons, we're still surprised. And I was like, it was really at this point where I started to notice how calm Estarossa was, considering the situation he's in, and he's just breaking out of people's arcs, and they're surprised by the fact that he can do it, even though they know he's a really strong demon. So I'm just like, Estarossa's calmness is kind of putting me off here, and it's Estarossa's calmness is gaining my suspicion, because he's against Elizabeth, Sariel, Tamiel, Daddy Yeti, and two of the assassins are there at the moment, and he's calm as hell, and I'm starting to wonder if the goddesses may have actually overestimated themselves in terms of their power. I'll come back to that later. Now, I love this scene with Estarossa talking, well, he was asking Sariel and Tamiel where the other two archangels were. He's like, hey, where's Rudusiel, and where's that guy, Mael, what was his name? And at this point, I was like, yo, he is a straight dickhead, because he did this only to like set himself up for reminding Sariel and Tamiel that he slaughtered Mael like a dog. And I was like, oh, dude, like, Estarossa, like, as much as we hate the guy, I love the guy. He's just such a wild card, and he's so crazy and so mad, but he's got the power to back up his well, we think he has the power to back up his words, and he's just there annoying the hell out of people and just going in against like 10 people, dishing out some major hurt. And I'm just like, yo, for him to go up against two archangels and say, oh yeah, I killed your brother like a dog, I'm just like, this dude is amazingly crazy. And but what I was also thinking during this whole situation was, does this confirm that Estarossa did actually take out Mael by his own strength? Did Estarossa actually take out Mael? Now, that's something I think a lot of people have actually discussed, but he couldn't even take on Escanor, and this was like pre 11:30 a.m. So how did this happen? I mean, like, I need this bit of history to be fully fleshed out, so because I don't really believe Estarossa, and I don't think the goddesses know the truth of the situation. Maybe Rudusiel does, but I doubt even he knows. But something's wrong with Estarossa taking out Mael, because people said maybe Mael was taken out during the night or something like that, when his power would be at its lowest. But so far, the three of the goddesses, without using their graces, have been incredibly strong, and we haven't really seen them use their graces yet, apart from Sariel and Tamiel. I think we saw them in the flashback arc thing with Diane and King. But even without their graces, they've been pretty strong, and that's the kind of thing. Even with the commandments, without their commandments, they're still the elite of the demon clan. So I doubt that even if it was at nighttime, that Mael would have lost to Estarossa, because he still would have been an elite goddess, and the strongest rated archangel. Even though that's at midday, he would have still been a very strong archangel. So for Estarossa, who I would rank at about 4th, maybe even less in the commandments, to take out the probably 2nd or 3rd during the night ranked archangel, there's something wrong there, especially considering that they're meant to be like 2 times as powerful as the commandments. But I suppose that's with the addition of the grace. But with all this being said, I still don't see Estarossa having taken out Mael in a fair way, even at night. I doubt I doubt Mile was like Estarossa, was like Escanor, where he becomes like incredibly weak at night. He was still an elite goddess and still an amazingly powerful archangel. So we'll talk about that in later chapters. So in response to this provocation, Sariel and Tarmiel ravage Estarossa with a barrage of magical attacks, and because they went straight to magical attacks instead of physical attacks, I'm assuming that they are aware of his version of full counter. That's what I think. And here Tarmiel actually drops a gem of information. Each archangel is valued at around twice the strength of a commandment. So each archangel is worth about 2 commandments, almost. Not only does this place more doubt, like I said, on whether Estarossa actually slew Mael, but it also brings back my earlier doubt. Have the archangels severely doubted, or have the archangels severely overestimated their power, because maybe they're not as strong as they think they are in comparison to the commandments, or in comparison to the top rated commandments. Estarossa then flies through their relentless barrage, very Vegeta-esque, and then in a very Krillin-like fashion, he slices through both archangels with like a destructo disc attached to both hands, one in each hand, and he just slices through them. And I was like, oh my goodness, this was so well drawn, and I really like this part of the chapter. And the fact that the Hellblaze just kind of bursts out of their bodies, it looked amazing. And then with this attack, the archangels become encompassed in demonic darkness. Literally, they're encompassed, their flesh is darkened over, and the 2 archangels fall while Estarossa reminds them that he has already defeated the strongest of them, Mael, and that these 2 pose no danger towards him. And I was like, Estarossa is going in. I'm really enjoying just following around Estarossa. He's crazy. Now, at this point, I was also shook, because last chapter, Estarossa was made to look like a chump by Monspiet, and this chapter the madman is just body bagging archangels, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And like I mentioned before, I think Monspiet may even be more powerful in terms of my rating and my ranking of commandments, and he body bagged Estarossa pretty much, and now Estarossa is body bagging 2 archangels, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on? But then you go to the next page, and in an explosion of light, the 2 archangels break free of the demonic darkness with new outfits. Now, I say new, but it's really their new human bodies in their original outfits from 3,000 years past. Now, with this, they promise Estarossa 2 things: to show him their graces and to gain vengeance for Mael. Now, a point to make out here is that Estarossa actually knows and is aware of their graces, mentioning Tornado, and I've forgotten what the other one was. Was it Tornado and Wave or something like that? Tornado and Ocean. I think it's Tornado and Ocean. So he's aware of their graces, so I'm assuming that they're aware of his commandment and his full counter. But the chapter ends there, but I've got a few things left to say. Now, Sariel and Tarmiel seem privy to Estarossa's commandment, like I said, and they should be, but this makes them difficult for Estarossa because so far he hasn't been able to rely on his commandment. But how can they not hate him? That's what I'm confused about. Surely his commandment must activate at some point because he killed their brother. He killed Mael, and I'm not sure if he was a blood brother, but in essence he was their brother, and they must hate him on some level, and that would activate his commandment unless goddesses or archangels at a certain level possess some immunity to the commandments. And I assume that might work both ways. I think commandments that are particularly strong may possess some immunity against a goddess's techniques, like for instance Arc, and I think in return some goddesses that are incredibly powerful in terms of archangels may possess some immunity to commandments and their effects. Now, on the other hand, the goddesses seem to think too highly of themselves. They value their strength at around 2 commandments together, hence why there are only 4 archangels and 10 commandments. Almost the same numbers in terms of there's about, if there's 4 archangels, they're valued at around 8 commandments, maybe a little bit above, and there are 10 commandments, so it's almost the same numbers. But Estarossa is incredibly calm right now, and even though he's up against the strength of 4 commandments essentially in Sariel and Tarmiel, each valuing at around 2 commandments, I mean, like, he couldn't even take on, like I mentioned before, Monspiet 1v1, and he wasn't even the highest level commandment, talking about Monspiet. He was probably 3rd on the list of commandments if we were to include Meliodas at number 1 and Zeldris at number 2. Then I think Monspiet would be number 3 and Estarossa would be number 4. So here we are, like I said before, saying that the fourth most powerful commandment took out Mael, the strongest Archangel, probably closer to 2.5 commandments in strength in reference to Mael. Now the Archangels, I think, don't know what they're messing with at this moment in time, so this will be a fun fight to see. And I've already talked about Mael. I was going to talk about it here, but I've already mentioned Mael and my opinion on whether he was fought at night and things like that. Now, I'm also hoping Elizabeth gets involved in the fight, seeing as she still thinks that Estarossa is trying to gather commandments from Meliodas. If Daddy Yeti tells her what Estarossa actually plans to do, and she would still have to stop him, because part of his plan is getting rid of Meliodas and Zeldaris, but Meliodas primarily would affect Elizabeth, so she would still have to stop him because he's trying to kill Meliodas. So I think Elizabeth has to really get involved in this fight. However, if Chandler and Cusack jump in on this fight, Elizabeth's in big doo-doo. She's in deep shit. And Chandler would basically try to kill her. Cusack, I think, would ignore her. But Estarossa would be the main thing. Estarossa would be the main concern, because he would definitely use this confusion. If Cusack and Chandler jumped in, everyone would shit their pants, even Sariel and Tamiel. And I think Estarossa would use this opportunity to kidnap Elizabeth and do whatever he wanted to do with her, even though she should be powerful enough to at least keep him off of her. But we'll see what happens. Estarossa is crazy. Elizabeth, I hope, gets involved in the fight, and let's actually see what Sariel and Tamiel can do. Let me know what you guys thought of anything I had to say. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Anything you want to say in the comments, theories, anything like that, opinions of this review, carry on. And that's about it. Yeah, I'll see you guys in a bit.